Hello and welcome to another episode on the series of Formula One rules, and today we're going to cover F1 penalties. Now, this is a very controversial aspect in Formula One. We've seen, the Lewis Hamilton fans and the Max Verstappen fans following the 2022 seasons or controversial incidents and the various penalties that were handed out, some fair, some unfair. You'll hear all the news, but let's go through how they occur and what penalties are available to the Formula One race steward. Now, the race stewards change from race to race. They're the referees in Formula One. Quite like many other sports, see in football there's a different referee for every match, and it's similar in Formula One. Now, F1 race stewards apply these rules subjectively, and therefore you'll get the controversials and the differences where drivers and fans feel that one was applied unfairly or too harshly, but the rules are there, and there's various rules that the teams and drivers can get punished for to ensure that it's fair game, effectively, to ensure the safety and fair play across the teams for all concerned. Now, if one of these rules get broken, the driver gets penalised. And the most common penalties in Formula One are, let's start with the first one, is the grid penalties. This is where a driver is given a penalty to drop their grid position for the next race. You'll often see this is normally a 5 or place grid drop, or for something a bit more serious, or 3 place. You can often see sometimes for more serious offences like 10 places or back of the grid penalties, for normally incidents in the race where someone's knocked a driver out of the race because it's their fault. Obviously the driver's out of the race, you can't really do justice by just giving someone a couple of second penalty. We've seen that happen also, but they'll given a sort of 3 place grid penalty, sort of make sure that they suffer for their wrongdoing in the next race. The next one is the added time penalties. So now you'll see a time penalty is where effectively time or a few seconds are added to the driver's final race time, normally about 5 seconds up to 10 seconds, for sometimes sort of taking an unfair advantage or blocking, or just knocking the driver off the track, where both drivers are normally able to continue. This was, we've seen this come into play, and it was in Japan this year where we've seen Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez on the last corner. Sergio sort of claiming that Charles Leclerc gained an unfair advantage and held a position where he could have made a pass into the chicane. Charles Leclerc sort of went wide, took a bit of a shortcut and held his position. Charles Leclerc got a 5 second place penalty, which meant Perez got second place, and following all the controversies at the end of the new rules in that one, Max Verstappen was crowned World Championship. So it can have some serious impact. You'll see normally if a driver is given a 5 second penalty, often it can mean that he'll lose some places at the end of the race because of that. Normally sometimes just the 1 place, but it can be 2 or 3 depending if there's a late safety car on the last couple of laps, and he could not move that 5 seconds that he's been given ahead of a number of drivers, and therefore finish 3 or 4 sometimes places back. It's a bit of a tough one to take. The next one is a stop-go penalty. Now, this is where a driver must enter the pit lane, stop in his pit box, normally 5 seconds or 10 seconds. No work can be done on the car during this time. Effectively the car just stays there in a standstill 5 or 10 seconds. Nothing can be done, like I said, to the car, and then they'll normally, teams you'll see take advantage of the car being in the pit lane, changing tyres, and off they go. The next one is fines. So teams and drivers can be given a fine. We've seen this in Brazil in 2022 where Max Verstappen got a £50,000 fine for touching Lewis Hamilton's rear wing. Obviously you also see this for sort of sometimes pit lane incidents where the team's made an error, and they'll get a fine for that. The next one is pit lane starts. So if there's an incident where driver's not able to make the start for whatever reason or some sort of infringement, the driver has to start the race from the pit lane. Now the disadvantage of this is that basically you can't make any places up at the start of the race, which is normally a big opportunity for drivers starting midfield or a little bit back, or even from the front, to be honest with you, to make up them places. So they'll lose out that. They're not able to release from the pit lane until the last car from the start grid has gone past the exit of the pit lane, so there's no unfair advantage gain there, that the lights go off and off, they zoom, sort of joining mid-pack. A lot of it is generally for safety as well, but then they'll end up effectively at the back of the field on that one. The other one is disqualifications, really, something that we don't really ever see, but a driver can be disqualified, or even a team from a race event, or even a whole championship. We've seen this, probably a big one I remember is 2007 with the McLaren Spygate incident, and effectively the McLaren got thrown out of the championship as a constructor for that one, and 0 points for them. So normally for very, very much more serious events, not something that we see very often, to be honest with you now. And that covers the penalties effectively available to the race stewards when they're looking at incidents, and the penalties that are available to them and what they think should be handed out, compared to looking at how harsh or how serious the incident is. They'll apply the rules as they think. And that covers that. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. I'll see you in the next video.